You wouldn't have to look very far as a leader to find a space where someone is leading their team or their organization like a drill sergeant. Like, it's not even hard to imagine this or caricature it up, the cartoonishness of it. One of the books and authors that went really big years ago, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And I appreciate so much the message. So let me say that before you tell me your angry messages about how it's helped you so much. I get it. The idea that we're not victims and we own. But what it did for a lot of leaders was it fed into this idea of being super hyper aggressive as a team, as a leader with your organization, and you're just going to drill sergeant them into the vision. Hopefully you saw our video that we put out this week about the drill sergeant and the way they show up in leadership, and you cannot drill sergeant your way into change. Hi, my name is Chris. Welcome to YouTube Live. We do it on Wednesdays at noon, lunch with Chris. I did wake up early, so I've already had my protein smoothie, little blueberry teeth action probably. I shouldn't have done that. Now I know they are blue. And it's our opportunity to get together with you once a week and give you a teaching that's going to help you a ton. And then we do Q&A wide open or to the content. But what happens for a lot of leaders is that are wired up to be very motivated, to be builders, to be the kinds of people who get things done. And you know, if you're wired up like this, like you get more done in a week than people get done in a month, more done in a day than people get done in a week. And that person is a really strong individual contributor. And when they get promoted to an executive role, they bring that energy to it. And when they bring that energy to it, they try to motivate everyone else how they've been motivating themselves. And the way that they've been motivating themselves got them to a place of success. It's not going to sustain them to great success because there's literally a drill sergeant in their head. It's just beating the crap out of them. You didn't do enough. There's a scoreboard. You're waking up every morning and the points are going negative. It doesn't matter how hard you push or how big you go, it's not enough. And so there's, the whole point of this idea in this teaching today, by the way, is not to go to the other extreme and we just lower the standards and we go super soft. No, the whole gift of this wiring is to be able to have a very high standard. And when you have a very high standard, that's how you get amazing things done in the world. Like, we need it. It's freaking beautiful. It's great. Without an intelligence around this, you bring that super high standard and you wear people out because they become objects and you exhaust them. And you don't understand how change works. Change doesn't work because you just white-knuckle it. Change doesn't work. You don't go through transformation. You don't lead a team or an organization or a culture through transformation to accomplishing a great vision because you just push harder. And the harder I push, the more likely we are to get there. And you'll find people occasionally who are leading this way, and people will have a good run with them for a season. But then that season fades because they got promoted to the CEO or an executive level because they were a hard, aggressive individual contributor, but they didn't learn how to actually develop and build people. And so what happens is when their own internal drill sergeant wears them out, they lose meaning. They push harder, and then they burn people out around them. Happens all the time. And as they burn people out around them, then people start to quietly quit and leave. Sometimes you have some dramatic exits, but more often than not, it's like, okay, they're gone. 2 weeks later, a month later, they're gone. 7 weeks later, they're gone. And a lot of leaders will be like, why? What happened? What occurred that caused this exit? And what a lot of leaders don't understand is you're pushing people and their issues into hiding because you just come with this drill sergeant energy. Toughen up, man up. And again, the opposite of this, lowering the standard, is not at all what we're talking about. This is why so many leaders that are wired up this way struggle with anger. Look, I can talk about this in an informed way because everybody. There was a season I went through years ago where I had a ton of performance pressures on me. And I had some moments where I just had anger come out in such a way that I felt embarrassed about it. And there's an old ancient wisdom saying, it says, only a fool gives full vent to his anger. And I just wrote that on a piece of paper. I carried it around in my pocket for a long time because I wanted to reach in my pocket in the middle of the day and be pinged with that consciousness and be reminded, hey, I'm a fool to give full vent to my anger. Now, I wish somebody would have helped me at that moment understand that the goal wasn't to just suppress the emotion or deny the emotion. Now I know when that anger shows up, it might be a good anger, an anger that's helping me build, because vision comes out of the things you're bothered about. Also, though, sometimes that anger was there because I had a standard for others that they were not meeting. Now, I want to lead and live and operate at the highest levels possible. I want to be at my absolute best. And so I raise the standard on myself. And as I raise the standard on myself and I raise the standard on others, when they don't live up to that standard, that's when that unhealthy expression of anger could show up. But the more that I've learned, the more I can parse this out and understand the answer isn't, and this is what's so broken about our leadership world today, the answer isn't to switch from drill sergeant to Mr. Nice Guy. Whatever, it's okay, it doesn't matter. Oh, you didn't win the deal? It doesn't matter. Oh, you turned this in and it's sloppy at the edges? It doesn't matter. No, it does matter. We need to do a great job. We want to win. We want to achieve. We want to grow. We want to build. We want to do great work. But here's the distinction. There is a difference between someone's personhood and their performance, who they are in their being and how they're at their best in their doing. And what the drill sergeant doesn't understand is it pushes aside the being and only goes after the doing, raising the standard. And then people are never going to meet that standard. And so when we get angry and we try to white knuckle the organization and force it into this transformation we want to see happen. And then you get enough blowback politically and we think that the answer is to go to the other extreme and to coddle everyone into some extreme psychological safety that is really masked as an excuse to not be held accountable and grow. That's not it either. So what is the way forward? The way forward is to delegate all this to AI. Not, I'm kidding on that, right? I'm seeing this more and more with the organizations we work with. If they're more like Michael, the motivator, like we looked at last week, or Derek, the drill sergeant this week, however they're talking to themselves when they're most stressed or insecure is how they talk to the AI when they're stressed and insecure, and then how the AI mirrors back to them what they want to see. So technology is not going to save you on this. You're just going to get a mirror image of your insecurities. What is going to do it? Well, all of the research on how adults grow and develop, the longitudinal research, so it's looking at a long arc of how leaders grow and develop. It doesn't matter the 4 big studies. Keegan, there was one on awareness. I can't remember them all now. They all show the same zone. Interestingly enough, that a small percentage of humans get to the point that they actually know who they are as a leader and how to show up at their best, not just out of their insecure archetype, like Michael the motivator or Derek the drill sergeant. 3%. Well, what's happening to everybody else? Well, around 60% of people are just leading and building teams and organizations based on what they've seen. So if it's a business that's multi-generational, grandma or granddad did it this way, mom or dad did it this way, I'm doing it that way. I'm just replicating what was passed on to me. But they don't really have a sense of conviction. There's a failure of nerve because they haven't really owned their own journey in this. About 30-ish% of leaders get beyond that to what I would call a reactive identity. So they don't know who they are, but then they just start reacting. And that reacting archetype is usually something that helped them, but it no longer serves them. And so they end up serving that archetype. It becomes their master. And that's what I see with this Derek the drill sergeant. You push yourself and motivate yourself with this scoreboard that is negative. and you just try to get to 0 every day. You try to get points on the board, and you try to work in little ways that you brag about your kids so they'll think you're a great parent. And you do the networking, not to show up for who you can impact, but you're trying to impress people. And you work in the little comments about how much you made last year and all these things that people do when they're trying to show people through their achievement that they're worthy. And the Derek the Drill Sergeant archetype just thinks more accomplishments, more winning, more on the scoreboard is going to fix what's inside of me. And that drill sergeant will finally calm down. So the drill sergeant's what's activating them when they're insecure, and then they try to activate others the same way. Well, what if there's a better way? What if we could be in that 3% sweet spot of adults who learn to transform our insecurities and show up at our absolute best, being the leaders who can pick up the personas and archetypes that serve us for seasons, but set them down without collapsing? That we don't have to build an identity around being this drill sergeant and saying, you're going to show up at this meeting at this time, and I'm going to put the fear of God in you if you're late. There are leaders who think that is the way to get it done. I mean, I went through a season as an organizational leader where I had everybody do a standing meeting with me for 5 minutes. Not to be the drill sergeant, but because the organization was in chaos and it was about to fracture apart in tons of directions. And I was doing that to bring a season of what some would label micromanagement to get us all on the same page. After we were all working on the same page, I stopped doing that. What leaders think falsely is, well, I can't be really good friends with my executive team. And I'm not saying, you do whatever is your jam on this, but the leaders that say, I can't be friends with them because they need to be afraid of me or they're not going to do a good job. It's false. It's a lie. And it will rob you of one of the greatest joys in life. That when people have a secure identity and they pursue a clear mission together, the bonds of community that exist there are amazing. That's a long-term marriage. That's raising kids to enjoy a lifelong adult relationship with them. And that is the quests you go on with the organizations and teams you lead. That is the sweet spot. So I'll give you like 3 little application points to take away today as a way to recognize what's happening when the drill sergeant is running the table too much in your team meetings or your parenting or your marriage, and what it looks like to shift. Truth number 1, or application point number 1. There's always a gap between resources and vision. So the gift of the wiring of the person that shows up like Derek the Drill Sergeant is they have the high standard. They see what the vision can be. But there's always a gap between the vision and where we are. It could be an energy gap. It could be a money gap. It could be a time gap. It could be a talent gap. It could be a personnel gap. And so what a lot of leaders do when that gap is there, they get angry. And that anger is going to do one or two things. Out of them being bothered, they're going to use it as fuel to be at their absolute best, or they're going to create a whip out of it and try to crack that whip on the people. And I'm using a graphic visual here on purpose because this is a tale as old as time. This is Pharaoh building the pyramids. This is Solomon building the temple. He wore people out. It is cracking that whip. So truth number 1, there's a gap between the resources and the vision always. What I do next matters. Is the anger fuel, or is the anger causing me to mistreat people? And I would say all day long, there are plenty of leaders who think they're not mistreating people, but they're mad if their team doesn't take the laptop on vacation. And if at 9 p.m. when they reach out that they're not answering. Number two, the people are the vision. The people are the vision. I might send a text at 9 p.m. to a team member, but I don't expect them to answer back unless it's an absolute emergency, which should never really happen very much. The people are the vision. It's not about creating hard, fast rules. It's not about just getting the accomplishment. It's not about just the organizational mission being accomplished. The people are the vision. The whole point of the mission that we're pursuing is not to have a well-run operation, Derek the Drill Sergeant style. The whole point is, who do people become in this? And that's the real powerful thing that can happen for Derek the Drill Sergeant. When he shifts or she shifts, they can understand, oh, we're trying to get to this big impossible goal. The only way we're going to really get there is if I and the team become something we're not. If I in this marriage and my partner or spouse, we elevate to a higher level. If I go first and my kids follow in transitioning to relating to them at the next stage of their growth and development, it's about the becoming. Like, that's the whole point. And Derek the drill sergeant forgets this because they're focused on accomplishment, not who the people become. And so truth number 2, the people are the vision. Learned the hard way too many times. Third truth for you that's really huge. They don't grow in your image. Oh, see, I could have stopped at point 1 and you'd have been like, yeah, that feels good. That's encouraging. There's a gap between vision and resources. I could have stopped at point 2. People are the vision. Yeah, Chris, I like that. I want to be the kind of leader who changes lives. We spend so much time together at work. What's the point if we're not changing lives? I think this third one is the hardest pill to swallow for anybody that wants to go on a transformational growth journey. The goal of their growth is not to make them in your image. It's to help them become who they can become. And I see this all the time. I'll ask leaders, hey, tell me what makes a great leader. What makes a great leader? The answers that people give come out of what they over and undervalue. They have some kind of temperamental diagnostic framework, characteristic list of what they think makes a great leader. So temperamentally, they start listing out the characteristics that have hopefully, but not always, hopefully served them well. Well, the problem with that is if you actually build a great team and they can be other white bald men like what we have on our team, it's not diversity in appearance, it's diversity in thought, diversity in wiring. It's diversity in the sense that my job in helping them grow is not to make them in my image. It's to help them become the best they can be as leaders. And that requires someone who isn't showing up insecure, expecting that people mirror and match their personality. And that's what the drill sergeant wants. The drill sergeant, being insecure, is looking at the team saying, you better match my intensity. When the reality is they may not be able to match your intensity because they have concerns that they need to process that are going to make the vision better. They're going to cook it out more fully. They see things you don't see. And so if we don't grab a hold of this idea, it's not temperamental leadership development. It's temperamental leadership, or template-based leadership development. It's template-based. What do I mean by template? Here's the template for you. This is the template. When a leader is secure in their identity and clear in their mission, they will attract and build healthy community. That's the point of it all. People building community around a mission that feels impossible, and we're doing that out of knowing who we are. And that, if it sounds rare to you, is very rare. That's the 3%. That's the 3% shift. AI isn't going to get us there. Derek the drill sergeant isn't going to get us there. It may hit in little cycles, but sustaining long-term impact. It's a template. So may we be the kind of leaders who know the gap between the resources and vision is going to be there. We're going to find ourselves in a place that we see that, fill that gap, and that we turn that energy into making the people the vision. And in making the people the vision, we don't expect them to look like us, think like us, act like us. They got to become their own best, secure in who they are leaders, clear in their mission, building healthy community. So glad you could be here with us today at Lunch with Chris. Want to make sure that you know about May 6th, depending on you when you watch this. We'll be in the room live with some leaders here in Columbus, Ohio, walking through why AI outperforms a lot of your leaders, what to do about that. What's the human component? Where does the human begin and end? Where does the AI begin and end? Because if we don't know that, we're about to lose our way in a bunch of dangerous possibilities. I'd love to have you there. Hit the bell, subscribe, so you know when we go live in the future, and you can join us as I make space for anything that resonated with you today, or questions you have about today's teaching in the chat, or questions that are wide open as we do Lunch with Chris. I'm standing by. And I hope you have a great day and you stay on the lookout for the ways that you don't try to white knuckle your team or organization through change. You help build them into the leaders they can become. Peace out, everybody.